This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Hope you are able to see my screen as well as able to hear me clearly. Please confirm.
Yes, yes. Good morning. Able to hear
Good
and
morning.
see.
Okay, thank you very much. So hope you have had a very good weekend.
Yeah.
Let's get started then. So in the previous lesson, in fact, for the previous 2-3 sessions, we have taken a detour and we are taking the Python crash course for data science. So we went through some very basics of Python, and then we started understanding some basic for data structures and their behavior. And using that basic knowledge, we did an exercise. We got a raw data set, raw data from, let's say, assume that is a client, the text files, and then we read them, and then we did a little bit of exploratory analysis. We tried to understand what is there in the data and explored it a little bit, and then found, using our basic knowledge of lists and sets, that there are some duplicate information is there in the data set. That is basically a tourist spots in districts of London. That's what we got. We want to build a small logic around that data and build a tourist information system. Okay, so we understood that and then cleaned up the data. At least we removed the uh, duplicate information, and then we organized all that information into a more database like data structure that is using dictionaries, and then we saved it. So in that whole process, we applied our basic knowledge of data structures and performed few actions. And as we go along and perform machine learning project development, so though we may not use this basic level Python data structures, on top of this data structures, more smart, elegant, clever data structures have been created in the libraries NumPy as well as Pandas. So we'll be using those libraries more in our work. But if you understand the basic things, it will be good, because you will be building a little bit of logic as you build your models. So understanding dictionaries and understanding lists will be very useful for you to build that simple logic that we are going to build when we do real projects. For those who are programming, this is not very tough. But for those who, based on their career lines, they are not involved in programming, what I'm saying is that it is not tough. And if you take a little bit of pain and type in, you will easily grasp it's not rocket science. And important thing is that we are not building a complex enterprise class application using Python. Then yes, you need to understand Python programming language in a much more detailed level. That's not what we are doing. So it is easy. So keep that in mind. So I want to encourage you to uh, take time and type these instructions and understand what is happening, how the things are working. It's that way. So hope all of you are in good kind of situation there with in front of your computers. And let us today spend the next 1 hour to learn the new topic in Python, that is Python flow and functions. So what are the, how do I control flow of execution of my program? That's what flow we call. And functions, how do I write some reusable pieces of code wherever I'm doing same things again and again? How do I cleverly bring them out, build a wrapper around it, and make it very generalized so that I don't need to write the same code again and again with small hard coded changes. So how do we accomplish these things in Python? That is our goal for today. And actually, we will not learn all of the functionality available in Python for flow and functions. We will learn what is needed for us. So again, with this whatever flow, conditional logic and iterative logic, if we know how to build it, pretty much any complex logic, any complex algorithm can be built. It's your imagination, your cleverness of using things, you can do everything. So we will go describe all these things in a very basic way, especially a way that is needed for first time programmers. That is how we'll do it. And then that is enough actually for doing our work. Okay, only thing I want you to practice. Let's move on. So flow and functions, these are very powerful tools that you will be using often. Okay, as a programmer, this flow and function is a very powerful tool. Okay, the flow, basically what does it do? Flow control allows conditional logic and iteration in your code. So because you want to alter the flow of execution in a program based on evaluating a particular condition, and if it is true, you want to execute a block of code. If it is not true, you want to skip that block of code and move on. Or if something else happens, you want to exercise another block of code. So choosing which block of code to be executed based on evaluation of a particular condition gives you powerful way to alter the flow of execution, and that is required to build intelligent code. Okay, that's what we'll do. And how do we accomplish that? Using if else statements. So how that thing happens in Python, that's what we will look at it. And then iteration, if else actually alters the flow of execution, but along with that, if you are having an ability to execute same block of code over and over for a particular iterables, we call them, say for a particular number of times, or for through particular number of objects, I want to perform same computing and give a output, then this iteration looping is a very, very important thing. So you couple the conditionals with iteration, pretty much any complex logic can be developed. So we will learn in Python how do we use iterative logic using for statement. So these are the two things we'll do. Then we'll also look into functions. How do I same pieces of code with little bit of hard coded values again and again I'm doing in my work? How do I save my time cleverly organizing them into user defined functions? Every programming language supports it. Python 2 supports. We'll learn how Python does that. Again, in the flow control today also we will look along with conditional logic and iteration in your code using for. There is a very clever way in Python to use these for loops and build very intelligent lists by transforming the existing lists. Instead of writing tens of lines of code, you can express very elegantly using something called list comprehensions. They are a little bit cleverness is needed, but once you understand that, you can save a lot of time typing very long code. You can express very, very easily. That is the real power of Python also. If you have something in your mind extremely clearly, you can translate into Python language without having to write a lot of code. That is one real positive thing about Python language. So as we start working and think, there is a problem statement in my mind and I'm able to think the Python way, then the output that comes on the screen will be very small pieces of code, but with one liners you can do extraordinary things. That's what also we'll see. So today we will look at if, how the conditional statement work, for how it works, and also list comprehensions very briefly, and then we'll move to functions. These are the things we'll cover. I'll explain and then we will write code also. But tomorrow we will continue with our exercise. We pickled a dictionary object day before yesterday, and we'll unpickle it and apply all the learnings that we are learning today to build some logic on that mini database, the location dictionary, and build a small tourist information system using whatever we learned today. Okay, that is the exercise we will do tomorrow. So that's why, to be able to do exercise tomorrow, let's go through it carefully. Again, it will not be very in-depth course, very simple course only. So let us move to first the conditional logic in Python. So we use what we call if statements. So again, I'm taking it like non-programmer point of view and explaining things. So let's say we are building a fuel whatever alert system. If the fuel is falling below a particular limit, we want to build an alert system, and such a program we are writing. So the program reads what is the current fuel, takes it, and then if it is at least 80 gallons, greater than or equal to 80, then it will show green. Okay. Again, if it is not greater than or equal to 80, then it will further, actually it will show, let's say, amber. Okay, but it will further check again if the current fuel is under 60. It is 61 and 70, not a problem or till 80, but it is under 60, then it will display red. Then otherwise it will continue to displaying the amber. That is the conditional logic where we have to apply. So let us, how we use Python's conditional logic using if. So just try to understand here how if works. So basically, anyway, my current fuel is 85. Okay, I set it before running this program. So typically in Python, when we use if, there will be no parenthesis and all. If is the keyword Python uses. Then whatever condition, that is your current fuel greater than or equal to 80, it will not be in parenthesis. You just put that condition, and then it will any programming code line which has an extension that will be executed, always it will end with colon. Keep that in mind. So that is the syntax Python uses. So if current fuel greater than or equal to 80, then if it is true, because now it is 85, it is actually true. Okay, so then it will go and execute the block of line that is underneath this if condition. So usually Python uses very white spaces, and they are very important. So whenever you have this colon, the next line, the child line of this parent, should be one tab space should be given. So this basically here to here, there is a 4 spaces you have to give, and you just give a tab after colon, it will take you there. You have to type there only. If you type this side after colon, it will give error. Python will not allow you to do that kind of instructions. So here, because current fuel is greater than 85, and here it is evaluated true, and because of it is evaluated true, it will go and execute that block of the code. Okay, so if the condition is met, it happens. But let's say if the condition is not met, here it evaluated to false. Okay, because I have my current fuel at 70. Okay, so it has false, but I didn't write any code there. So basically it doesn't execute this piece of the code. It just comes here. If there is no code, it doesn't do anything. But if you want to execute another block of code, then you have to write your else statement. So here my current fuel is 50. So I want to, it is not going to evaluate true. So this particular block of code that is written for true will not be executed. So it comes out. There I want to send another message. So I am using my else statement. Again, if you look at else and colon, then comes actually your next block of code. Because it is 50, this is not executed, but this block of code is being executed and output will come. Let us say we want to actually put multiple conditions in this. Okay, if it is greater than or equal to 80, green. If it is less than 60, I want to put it as red. Okay, here now I am only putting, let's say here it is 50, so I want to put a red for 50, not 80 minus 50, 30 gallons. We need at least 30 gallons. It's a amber message. I want to put a red message. Then you can apply multiple conditions by putting elif. So basically Python uses if, not else if. It uses elif. Okay, and else. Using this, you can build any intelligent control flow logic. Okay, so basically here what I am doing, my else if it is less than 60, I want to print that we are very low on fuel. So red on fuel I want to put. So because it is 50, this block is executed and it will give you. So that is how we build the conditional logic in Python using if, elif, else. Okay, this elifs can be any number. If, elif, 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 and then else. Based on how you want to build your logic, you can use this. Only thing, you have to be very cautious about white spaces in Python. Okay, so other languages uses a lot of curly braces whenever you are building loop structures or conditional logics. A lot of these braces are used in other programming languages like Java, but Python doesn't use that. It uses instead spaces. Okay, so when you indent a line of code, it becomes child of the previous line. And to indicate to Python that there is a child line next, you have to always leave the parent with a colon. That is very important. You should not forget it. Okay, the parent has colon following it, and each indent is exactly 4 spaces. Okay, and to end the block of the code, you have to outdent. You have to bring it back to the same thing. And then in Jupyter Notebook, after colon, if you press tab, it will go to the next line with a tab space. So here, if you look at parent line of code ends with a colon, then one tab space and child line code starts. And if that is again have a nested thing, then you a grand child line code. And if you outdent, the sibling of the first child is coming, and you can outdent and go to the parent line. So you have to get used to this kind of using the syntax. So get used to that. We'll do a little bit immediately now. So basically I'm repeating. So if these are the basic building blocks of conditional logic, not rocket science. Only thing, the problem you have to articulate in your mind first. What is my logic? Then translate it into Python way. That's it. Only you have to take a pause, think about your logic in your mind. If statements check if a condition is met before running a block of code. So you begin them with if keyword. Then the statement has 2 parts. One is the condition, which must evaluate to a Boolean, true or false. And the second is the code block to run if the condition is met, indented with 4 spaces. So that is how we write if statements. Let us type this code. Okay, so type this code. Let us set a variable current underscore fuel equal to 85, set it at 85. Then write the first condition, if current underscore fuel greater than or equal to 80 gallons, colon, then print okay, let's say green. I just put it from somewhere, so I put this, but whatever, you type it, okay. Then what will be your output for this particular block? Because 85 is greater than or equal to 80, it will, this condition will evaluate to true. Because it has evaluated to true, the block of code will be executed, the child block will be executed. If it is, let's say, 60 or 50, then it is false, then nothing will happen here. So did you type this code?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
Madhu. Yes, Madhu.
Okay, great. So the output, we have enough fuel to last the zombie apocalypse, but whatever you wrote, that has come. So that is how it works. Now, let's say I just leave it like this. Okay, so current fuel is greater than or equal to 80, the condition. Since we set current fuel equal to 85 earlier, the condition was met and the code block was done. Understood. Okay, now let's say my current fuel is 50 now, as I am evaluating this. Okay, what will happen now? So basically,
Nothing
this
is printed.
evaluates to false, and
Nothing
I
will
don't
come.
have any code block, so nothing happens. It will just, it looks like it ignores the code block. Okay, that's okay. But let's say we want to print another message, such as warning to restock on fuel. Okay, that is the message I want to give. So hey, you are low on fuel. So you again, we can compute what is the current fuel and 80 whatever we want, minimum 85, and then we can do that. Okay, let us write the code now. Else part I am writing. So to whatever code you already wrote, change your current fuel to 50. Okay, and you write the else block. So else block, when you write, you outdent back to your parent line level. Okay, and colon. Then whatever you want to do when the condition evaluates to false, that block of code right there. Okay, so basically here what we are doing, restock, again we are using our placeholders and dot format for our string to show that, because if we keep on typing it, we'll get used to this. So that's why we have put there. So restock, we need at least the placeholder gallons and dot format the whatever 80 minus current fuel. So what will be the output you will get here? Because your current fuel is 50, so this will not go here because it will not evaluate to true. So this piece of code will not be executed, but it evaluates to false. So it comes here and executes this piece of the code. Okay, so here it will tell restock, we need at least 30 gallons. Okay, so what we have built the else logic. If true, what should I do? Else, also I put a message. So if and else. Did you do it?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So now let us look at our multiple conditions. Now I want to think about my red, amber, and green type logic. So I want to put check another condition. Okay, I'll first check for greater than or 80, green, but is it not between 80 and 70 or 80 and 60? That's okay, amber. I want to check, is it less than 60? Then I want to tell it is red. I want to really seriously alert. So I'm putting a multiple condition. So to put multiple condition, I put after my if true, I will check for another condition, true or false. And based on that, I want to do something. So I use this elif keyword. So here what we are doing, current fuel greater than 80, we are checking that. So basically current fuel is 50. That's what we have set now. So this will be false. So this part of the code will not be executed. Then it will come to elif, checks for another condition again. It will check whether current fuel is less than 60. yes, actually it is less than 60, so it is true. So this code will be executed and comes out and prints it. Okay, so what will be the output here? It will be alert. We are way too low on fuel. Okay, so this is how we put or apply if, elif, else. So if there is simple if means true condition, you are writing a piece of code. If you want to write a block of code for else side, then you will use else keyword and complete that. If you want to in between put more conditions to check and act differently for every condition, then you will use elif. So using this, any complex conditional logic can be thought as well as built in Python, and this will be useful because we need to change flow of control of code based on what happens, what conditions change. Okay, so is it clear? Okay, that is
Yes.
as simple as
Yeah.
with respect to if.
Yeah.
As you practice, you will get it. Okay, now let us get to the loops, the iterative logic. We want to do the same piece of code again and again. The looping is also very important to write complex programs. So let us understand the for loop. Okay, many ways it can be done. We are only learning for. Okay, so for loops allow iteration, looping. It will allow iteration. Exercise same block of code the number of times that you specify. The number of times you specify using some structure. Okay, we'll look into that. So when you need to repeat a process across many objects, you can write a for loop to do so. Let's say yesterday we have built location underscore dict. Okay, so in that, let's say inner London, I created one key, capital L string. Okay, I access this key, then it returns to me a list of tourist spots. Now on those tourist spots, I want to do something. Let's say we calculated length of that. It is some names, some 32 names are there. Okay, like that, some 32 named list is there. Okay, in strings. Now I want to do on every location some operation. I want to print them. So I can call this object which returns me the tourist spots of inner London, puts into a list. Okay, and I want to print everything till 32. I don't need to do write print 32 times. I can use this and put a for loop around this and tell that, hey, for my location tourist spot, first tourist spot to last one, the 32nd one, print. That is how we use for loops. Okay, so we'll look into that. Hope you are able to see my screens and listen to me.
Yes, Madhu.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so for loops use a keyword called for. Okay, then the loop has three parts. We will go through the syntax carefully. So there is a for keyword and a named variable. So you have to think about, okay, I will loop through some object list or iterable. First, let us come to iterable. Actually, we'll go to the named variable later, but iterable. So here my location underscore dict indexed with inner London is my iterable. So the iterable has this list of 32 strings. Okay, so that I have to choose now based on what I want to loop through. That item that I will loop through, it has to be clear in my mind. I want to print all locations or tourist spots of my inner London. So where do I get that iterable object? which one through which I should loop. So I can loop through location underscore dict inner London. Okay, so I have immediately 32 strings with tourist spot names. Okay, I chose my iterable. So basically an iterable is a list, tuple, or anything, even dictionary. Here we have used a dictionary object that contains the elements to loop through. So my location underscore dict inner London actually has a list of elements that I want to loop through, 1 to 32. Okay, roughly I'm telling, it can be whatever number. Okay, so I want to loop through all of them and do the same block of code. So to do that, after iterable, I have to think through whatever I read, the first one, I want to, in my for loop, I want to give some named variable to that. Let's say I call it as location, or location, let us call it, or let's say simply tourist spot. Okay, tourist spot. This is the variable I gave. Okay, so basically here for tourist spot in, I have to put for keyword tourist spot is the named variable, in is a keyword, what in this object iterable. Okay, so let me write it a little bit cleanly for you. For tourist spot in, my iterable is location underscore dict inner London. Hope my writing is okay for you. Okay, so what happens is that this is my iterable, location underscore dict with index inner London is my iterable. I chose that because I want to print them. Okay, so it loops through that. Then to write a code of block, whatever it reads, the first item to the 32nd element, I chose my variable name. You can choose A, or you can choose any name, but I chose for tourist spot. Then I put a colon here, and with a tab space, I'll tell that print tourist spot. So what it does, it goes, fix this location, prints it. Then it goes to the second one and assigns that to tourist spot. And because we are printing tourist spot, it will go and print the second one. It will go third one and assigns to the tourist spot, prints that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, all your 32 names will be printed here by writing a loop. Okay, so basically an iterable is an object that contains the elements to loop through. You have to, whenever you are building your own logic for a problem, you have to carefully first assess what should be my best iterable through which I want to run this looping. Selection is very important. Then whatever you are selecting from there, something reflects that, put a named variable. So because immediately for the named variable will come, then it will come in as a keyword for named variable in iterable. That is the kind of syntax. Keep always thinking like that whenever you are looping. Then colon, whatever you want to do, you write a code block to run for each element, indented with 4 spaces. That is how for looping works in Python. For variable name in iterable colon do, and it will do that many times as your iterable is having from first to last. Okay, and then it comes out after doing that. Clear? Shall I go forward?
Yes, Madhu.
Okay, so anyway, write this simple for loop for yourself, so just to get used to that. So basically what we are doing, for number is my named variable, in I'm creating a list 0 comma 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4. Okay, and I'm taking the first in the list, that is 0, and assigning it to a named variable number, and I'm executing this block of code print number. So 0 is printed. Then because it is a loop, it will not come out till it executes the last in the list. So it will go to the next one. 1 is assigned to number, and because number is 1 now, it will do that. The list is not exhausted, so it will go assign 2 to that. So it will do 2, then it will do 3, it will do 4. After 4 there is nothing, so it comes out of the loop. Okay, and it prints it. Okay, that is how the looping is built using for construct. Clear? Did you type this? Okay, shall I move forward?
Yeah.
Yes, Madhu,
Okay.
we can.
Okay, so again, first we set the iterable. This is the iterable. I'm repeating only. Okay, then you have set single element that we loop through to a named variable number, and then a code block. We can access that named variable in the code block, and we're only doing print operation on the variable, so it is doing that. Okay, it is as simple as that. But then any thing we can build, you can within the for, you can put nested conditional logic, you can put nested fors, and make it as clever as possible and achieve any complex outputs. Okay, so we will do a little bit of exercises, but again, whenever you want to build this kind of integer lists, actually you don't need to keep on typing it. Python has a built-in function called range. Okay, it automatically generates a list. You use actually range 10. Then Python creates a list starting from 0, ending 9. It will create all these integers and puts them into a list object. That is what it does. Range 10 creates the list 0 to 9. So when you put 10, it is not inclusive. It will go n minus 1, and it starts not at 1, it starts at 0, because Python uses the 0 indexing. This is the kind of list is automatically created, but range can be used more intelligently. Also, you can give start, end number, start number, and interval between that. Then variety of number integer lists can be created using this function called range. Anyway, we are using it in a very simple way. We are not giving all the arguments. We are giving only the number we are giving. So what it does, it produces a list. Now the same thing yesterday, previously you did. So let's say for number in range 5, print number. Say the for loop does the same thing, because it would have created a list of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it becomes your iterable, the range 5. Then it goes through each element of that and runs this block of code and produces the same output. So anyway, range, keep that in mind, because we want to do a little bit of more exercises on for. So also we can use, there is another function in Python is called reversed. Okay, if you use reversed range of 5, so it will not build a list from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. It will do 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, so just to check that again, using the for loop. Now this reversed range 5 has is become your iterable. Reversed range 5 has become your iterable. Through this iterable, you are doing it. That's why reverse 43210 has come. Okay, clear? So we will.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So now we can build nested control flows. So within a loop, you can build some conditional logic and make it more complex, the program. So let us go through this, whatever piece of code. You have to tell me what will be the output of this program. maybe without writing the code, we have to look at the output of the code. So what is really here? Range list, one list I am creating using range function. Okay, it will create a list 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Commas will be there. I'm not putting. A list is created. Okay, now I'm using reversed range list as my iterable in my for loop. So it is actually the iterable is 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. This is my iterable in my for loop because I'm using reversed range list. Range list is nothing but 0 to 9. So reversed range list will be 9, 8 that way. Then I'm putting this iterable into my for loop. Okay, and I am looping through this list one by one. Okay, and I'm assigning a named variable called number, and then in the block of code after my colon I put not simple print, I put a little bit of conditional logic to achieve a little bit complex things. So in that conditional logic, what I'm doing, if number equal to 0, so if it is true, then it will print statement lift off. Else if I'm doing another condition check, if number is divisible by 3, meaning percentage 3 modulus 3 equal to 0, then I'm printing buzz. If it is not 0, or if it is not buzz or divisible by 3, I am printing the number. So what will happen when this for loop works? It will first pick up my 9, number equal to 9. So it will check number equal to 0. So it is false. So it will come here. Elif, number divided by 3 equal to 0. Yes, true. So it prints buzz for me. Okay. Then because it is a loop, it will not come out. It will go and pick up my 8 now. And same logic will be run again. If number equal to 0, no. Print lift off, so it will not happen. Else number, it will go here, and elif divisible by 3, no. So it will come here and number 8 will be printed. So what will be the output for this? You tell me now. Throughout the iteration, what will be that? Buzz 8.
I think it should
Second
be
one is
buzz
7.
8, 7,
Buzz
the
5 4
buzz
Buzz 2 1.
5, 4.
5, 4, 3.
No,
Buzz
Buzz 2 1.
Bus
buzz 2,
3 will
1.
not come.
2 1
Lift off.
list
Lift
off.
off.
That is how this logic works. Just to understand that the iterable, then a conditional logic, if you apply, some complex logic can be developed. So buzz 8 7, buzz 5 4, buzz 3 2, buzz 2 1, lift off. That is the kind of output it will be printing. So this is basically using for, and within the code block using your control flow logic, that is using if. Then you can do nested loops also. Okay, so here I have a for, outer for, inside there is another for. Okay, so look at this logic, what happens. So I have my first iterable list underscore a is holding 3 integer values 4 3 2. My second list, another iterable in the inner loop, I am using list underscore b 6 and 3. And okay, I'm building this much of logic. So first loop I have put with an indent a code block, another for, and within that another for, within the code block I put print a string x comma b comma equal to a star b. And basically it will put whatever a is 4 into 3 equal to 12, like that it will put. Okay, so what will be the output of this program? How will it run? A nested for loop. What do you think will be the output? So let us look at how it works. So it will go for a, in list A. Okay, so list A is 432. So that is my iterable here. So it picks the first value and gives it A. Then my code.
Madhu, you are not audible.
Madhu, we are not able to hear you.
Madhu, we are not able to hear you.
Hello guys, I think there is some connection problem from Madhu's side. Let's wait for 5-10 minutes and let him resume as early as possible.
Hello, I think you lost me for a while.
Yeah, hi Madhu.
Yeah.
Yes, Madhu.
So when did you lose me? Actually, I think suddenly it went into mute.
Started
When you
explaining the
started,
looping, like,
yeah,
Okay. So this nested one, you got it? Did we do this previous one, this one?
yeah, that was done.
Yeah. So here we are talking about a for inside for. So what will be the output? We are trying to do that. So there is a list underscore A, which is the outer loop. It will start with 4 because for A in list A. Then immediately after the for, we have another inner for loop, which is using an IEEE 63 B, list B. So it picks the first element and computes. Then it will not go back to first loop until it covers all elements of inner loop. So it will go A is still 4, but B it will pick 3 and 12. Then it will go to outer loop because it went to end of the list. So it picks the second in the list A and again first
यार
in
इसका
the,
टेस्ट बहुत ही गंदा लग रहा है, मोटू नहीं खा पाऊंगा.
okay, then 3 into 3, so on and so forth, it will go on. So this is how we use nested for loops. Did you get it?
Yes, Madhu.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that is how the nested for loops. So with nested for loops and within those for loops conditional logic, if you have any complex problem and how these constructs work, you can organize any complex logic as long as the problem is clear in your mind. Okay, we'll use some of these things as we do that. Okay, using these for loops, we can actually create very different kind of new lists. Okay, let us say we can use a empty list, define a variable name and tell that it is empty to your Python interpreter, and then you can use a looping structure using for and build some lists. Okay, so let's say you have range 10, means 0 1 2 3 till 9. Out of that you want to create two lists. One is even number list, another is odd list. So we can write this kind of code and build those lists. So basically I'm creating first a range underscore list. So I'm building a list using the range function. So 0, comma 1, comma 2, comma 3, comma 4, comma 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. Then I actually opening two empty lists. Always to do empty list is give your variable name, that is events list, whatever you give, equal to and just two square brackets. That's it. There is no, so it Python knows that there is a empty list. Whatever I am going to do to events list, it has a property of list, but right now it is empty. Now I want to populate events list and odds list by a particular logic. Okay, using my loops as well as my conditionals. That's what I'm doing. So but basically what happens for number in range list, for this list from starting from 0, I want to call it as number named variable. Okay, so it picks 0 first and goes to the block of code. In that I am telling if number percentage 2 modulus 2 equal to 0, it is divisible by 2. 0 by 2 is 0. Okay, so then I am telling events underscore list dot append. I'm using the dot append method and number, if this number. So events list, it puts 0. Okay, else anyway it will not go, it comes out. Okay, then the loop is not completed, so it picks up the second number. Then number will get 1 this time. Okay, then 1 percentage 2 or 1 modulus 2 equal to 0, it is false, so it is not divisible by 2. So I am putting my odds list, the empty list I created, and applying dot append to my number there. Okay, then my odds list will get 1, and as it iterates, this list and this list will be having evens and odds. That is how we can write and put a empty lists and append them based on applying some conditional and looping logic. Did you type this code? Getting bored typing this code?
Yeah, yeah. Got the result also.
Okay, so why I wanted you to type this code is that Python has much better way. You don't need to even write this. You can express all this using one single line. Okay, and those are called list comprehensions. We'll come to that. Okay, that is why I wanted you to really take this headache and write this so many lines and achieve. But this I want to achieve using a single line, using what we call a feature called list comprehensions. Anyway, you got these outputs. Okay, so let us get to that topic called list comprehensions. Okay, so what is list comprehensions? List comprehensions, they construct new lists elegantly, cleverly. So list comprehensions are one of the wonderful tools in Python. So Python, a lot of people will tell that if I have to build something, a logic, if Java requires 20 lines, in Python I can do with 3-4 lines. That elegance is coming to Python because of these features like list comprehensions. So list comprehensions, they construct new lists out of existing ones after applying transformations or conditions to them. If there is already a list, then you can use a for loop to that list and apply some transformations using some conditional logic and create a new list and assign to it. Okay, in single line. It's like a definition of a list only. Okay, like you are telling integer list equal to square bracket 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In that way only you can create very complex lists using lot of logic that is built inside the loops first. Okay, let us look at that. So I am putting here in one single line, I am creating squares list. Okay, we'll come to this, understand it, and dissect what exactly what is this. Let's say I'm writing a program. So how I will do that? Maybe for I'll call number. Okay, number in range 10. So that is my range 10 will be my iterable. Okay, then I want to create a square list and build that. So maybe squares list I will put a variable and start an empty list. Okay, because I want to kind of append to this whatever happens. I'm writing a logic instead of list comprehension. So for number in range 10, what I want to do inside, I want to number, whatever number I am getting, equal to number star 2. I'm squaring it. Okay, then that number I am actually putting into squares list dot append number. Okay, so it will take 0, and anyway my for loop is over. Let's say here I write print squares list. By the end of the program, what happens? It picks up the 0. 0 square is 0. It will append here. Then it will go 1 square appends, then 4, go on, and till 81 it will print that. So to achieve this squares list, I am writing so many lines of code. So how do I more comprehensively, easily write? Using what we call this list comprehensions. If you look at this code, I'm actually not writing code. I'm having a squares list as a variable, and I want to build that squares list using again my list definition. If you look at it, there are square brackets, but in the square brackets I am putting a for loop and a logic. Okay, so let us dissect it. So basically what we wrote here, squares underscore list equal to the square bracket started number star 2. That is the output, that is I'm appending to squares list. So basically number square 2 is the output. Okay, that output is generated how? Using a loop for number in range 10. Okay, so for number in range 10, pick the number and square it, and that will be the output. That output append back to squares list. All that will be understood by this single line definition. Whatever code we wrote, 5-6 lines, all that are done using this one single line of expression, and those things are actually in Python called list comprehensions. So we will dissect it. Okay, anyway, this is the output generated. This program also will generate the same output. Okay, this line also generates the same output. So let us dissect it. So here, iterable. Every list comprehension will have, not iterable, will have to have a for loop. First, you have to, in your mind, you have to have a lot of clarity about your iterable, and within iterable, what kind of elements are there, and what is the named variable you gave, and how it goes through that loop. So every comprehension must have a for loop. Okay, so this part is cleared. Okay, for loop. Then what is this number square 2? They also have an output. Whatever this one output is created, that is actually preceding your for loop. Output for number for loop basically. Okay, that you are putting it in a square bracket. Finally they are surrounded by list brackets. Okay, so basically this for loop is executed, and for each of this output is calculated, and this output is appended back to squares list, and it builds the, so it picks up a list, applies a transformation on the list, and assigns the transformated list to another named variable in one single line. And a lot of clever things can be done. Hope you got it. So basically you have to think about your for loop. Okay, whenever you are thinking of comprehensions, what will be my for loop? Then you have to also think about what is my output. Okay, so output, then for loop you have put in a square bracket, and then you assigned it to something, it worked. Okay, is it clear? So let us say,
Yes, Madhu.
we want to build square list. We wrote a big program, square list and odds list. We want to not write program, but we want to events list and odd list. Let us do without having to write whatever for loop and ifs and all. I want to put in single thing. So basically, how will I do? Let's say events list. Okay, sorry, events list equal to, I'm doing a list comprehension, so there will be starting this bracket. Then I want to put something into this. Output will come from a for loop with some logic. Okay, so how do I write it? If actually, let me call whatever goes into events list as number, my variable, named variable. I'm thinking in my mind number. Okay, then anyway, no comma will be there. I'm just remove the comma. There will be no comma at all. Now I have to think about my for loop. Okay, I want to do from a range of 10. So for, okay, for number, named variable, this is output here. Don't confuse with the name for loop. For should have for named variable in iterable. So for number in, what is my iterable? Range 10. Okay, so basically, so far if you look at it, range 10, 1 to 0 to 9, 1 by 1 is assigned to number, but I want to create a list that is only events. So I can put a condition logic here. If number modulus 2 equal to 0, okay, so I am applying my for loop. For every element in my for loop, I run this condition. If number percentage 2 equal to 0, and if it meets, that will go to my output, and that output will be appended to events list. If I run this list comprehension, it will be 0, 2, 4, 8, 2, 4, 6, 8. Let's say if I want to do odds list from without writing any code, then I'll have to define a list comprehension, again number, okay, for number in range 10 if number percentage 2 not equal to 0. You put a comprehension like this, it will go pick up 1, 3, 5, 7. Okay, or 5, 7, 9. Anyway, we'll write it here. Okay, so type this here. So instead of writing that complex or many numbers of lines of for and if, you can write it in a single statement, and that's what we call a list comprehension. So why don't you type this? So basically you have started the square brackets, means I am defining a list but not defining through a loop and a logic inside that. So this is my output, number is my output. For number in range 10 is my for loop. On that, before applying, giving the output, I'm applying this condition and then assigning to a list variable. Okay, so it produces this kind of list. Okay, so here if you change differently, exclamation and equal to, and then tell it is odds list, the same thing will work and create odds list. Clear? Did you try it? I want you to type these things
Yes,
and
Madhu.
try
Yeah,
it
yeah.
for yourself and think. And a lot of interesting things can be done without having to write a lot of lines. Okay, fine. So here we are using labels range. So now my for loop is for number in range 10. So my iterable is 0, 1, 2, 3, 9 up to 9. Okay, this is my for loop, part of my list comprehension. This whole thing is my output. Earlier output was only number or number square 2, like that. But here in number, I'm applying a little bit of conditional logic. I'm telling string even if number is divisible by 2, else odd. So what will be the output of this program? So basically this is the output from here to here. This is output, and from here to here my for loop. So list comprehension must have a for loop. It has to have an output, but output is not, in the previous example it is number or number squared, but here I have put a logic. I told string even if number modulus 2 equal to 0, else string odd. Okay, so what will happen? How this program will run? So my iterable is 0, 1, 2, 3, 9. Okay, and number will get 0 first. Okay, number will get, in the first time the loop starts, it gets 0. How output is calculated? Output is calculated here using this output statement. Even if number modulus 2, so 0 modulus 2, if true, even. So a list is appended and it will put even.
Even odd,
Okay.
even odd, something like this.
Yeah. So it will give even odd, like that. So here little bit more cleverly we have put. Anyway, every list comprehension has to have a for loop, but in the output section we made a little bit of logic. Okay, so all again in the previous example what we did, for number in range, then we applied if condition also after the logic, and then that we have put it back to a output. So in the previous one, output, for loop and condition, like that we put. Here output itself is having a conditional output with for. So keep noticing these things and think in your mind to build such things well. Okay, so you may have got a doubt in your mind, why list comprehensions? Can I not build a set comprehension? Actually yes, you can do, if you use instead of the square brackets, if you use those curly braces and do the same thing, instead of creating a list, you will be able to create a set by transforming a current set. Okay, but they are not so common. Lists are very common, that's why the name list comprehension is very widely used. Okay, so finally list comprehensions are not limited to lists. You can use them for other data structures too. The syntax is the same, except you would enclose it with curly braces for sets and parentheses for tuples. Okay, if I want to create a set comprehension, double set, okay, so I am just doing everything same. Output is number square 2, my for loop, only thing this is enclosed by curly braces, and I gave it, and when I see, it has created my doubles set. Okay, but this is, people don't use them sets and tuples, but people use for lists because they are manipulatable structures. So that is why we do that. So actually we have to cover functions also, but it is already 10 minutes past 10, so I will stop here. And do you have any questions?
Madhu, sets are non-mutable. So how can we use a comprehension list?
No, you can create a new set using a current set using a comprehension. But after this set, whatever its features are there, you cannot index them. Okay, they are mutable. Actually, sets are not immutable. You can use set dot remove, set add. You can elements can be added. They are mutable, but they are not mutable by using indexing like lists, because they are not sequential objects. They are unordered. Okay, that's what. This is not very common. Nobody uses this kind of things in using comprehensions and transform current sets to make new sets. That kind of thing is very not so usual, but it can be done. That's what we are telling, by just changing your this operator symbol from square brackets to curly brackets.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
So Madhu, how many Python classes still we have before we get on to the projects?
Yeah, now we have, tomorrow what we will do is that functions and the exercises of whatever flows and functions we'll do tomorrow. Okay.
Tomorrow is
So
Wednesday,
then,
right?
Wednesday. That is Wednesday. Then similarly, we'll have 2 classes for NumPy and 2 classes for pandas.
Okay.
So pandas, we will tell pandas and practice a little bit, and then we take one data set and do exercise. So pandas in 2 classes, NumPy in 2 classes, and tomorrow another class. So another 5 classes or Python will be done, and then projects will start.
So now, Madhu, when we try to import these libraries, right, of NumPy or Pandas, whatever Anaconda and Jupyter we have installed, if we call directly, will it get it, or we need to do some environable settings or something?
See, if you have installed it from Anaconda, whatever the distribution, all libraries to do data science and machine learning are all there. Okay.
All there. We just need to
without
import.
any problem, they'll do. In case you are doing from any other place, Python separately, Jupyter separately, then you have to go and some other process we have to follow pip install, and then again there is a sequence to which you have to install also. First, NumPy has to be done, then only pandas, then only some matplotlib, SNS and all. But that's why if you are using the Anaconda distribution, you don't need to take all that headache. Everything is there. Actually, there is one more way. If you don't want to even install, actually Google has one what we call collab.google.com or google.collab.com, one of the things. Okay, so here you don't need to do any installation. So Google for every day it gives some 11 GB RAM for conducting some machine learning executions. Okay, because when we do projects, actually if you have low RAM machines, it will take little bit time for the model building training process. So Google is giving for free some 11 GB this thing. So as soon as you open and go through that, there is a Jupyter interface also will be there. You don't need to do any installation. You have a data set from a particular folder in your computer. Only thing is that you need a internet. Okay, it is not a local host based thing. So you have to have a good internet, then you can do that also. But anyway, if you take from Anaconda distribution, you don't need to worry at all.
Okay, thanks, Madhu.
Okay, so I will stop here then, and tomorrow we will start with functions. Very small thing only is there. Then we will do exercise, continue our exercise. Basically, already we saved our location underscore dict, pickled it. So we unpickle it and build some logic using ifs, fors, list comprehensions, and some functions. We'll see how we can build logic. That is the idea tomorrow. Okay. So if not any more questions, I will stop here and have a wonderful day. Hope you are enjoying the sessions.
Thank you, Modi.
Thank you, Madhu.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Thank you.